Okay, so we're up to the Mishnah on the top of Zion Amid Aleph. The Mishnah on the top of Zion Amid Aleph. Misha Nigmar Dinoi. A person has a Gemar Din. We're speaking about Dinei Nefashas. He has a Gemar Din for Misa. Uborach, right, and he runs away. Ubor lifnei oisei bezdin, and they bring him back to the same bezdin. Ein soisun es dinoi. They don't go ahead and subvert the original psak. They don't reopen the case. I guess you might think that Silo as Eda, we think so much about being Matzil the Eda, saving a person. You might consider that he left and then we got him back is a new court case that we can possibly go ahead and reopen the case. Kamashalon, that you don't do that. Kol makom sheyamdu shnayim v'yomru me'idem onubish ploini shenigmar dinoi bebezdin shel ploini. Two Edom come up and say that Harry had a Gemar Din in, I don't know, the Harry had a Gemar Din in Bezdin X. Okay, but we're not testifying that we saw Harry kill. We're testifying to the fact that Bezdin X paskin misa on Harry, and in addition they say uploni ploni Edav, and so are the Edim. Harry's going to be killed. So in that case, they're testifying to a fact that Harry had gone ahead and had a Gemar Din in that place, and so the Edim, based upon that testimony, you're going to kill Harry. Another halacha, right? Another halacha, Sanhedrin noheges ba'aretz ubechutz la'aretz. Sanhedrin is noyeg ba'aretz ubechutz la'aretz. So not only in Eretz Yisrael would you set up capital punishment cases, but even in chutz la'aretz. Nasin, we're in the Mishnah on Zion Amid Aleph. We're in the Mishnah on Zion Amid Aleph. Okay, so this is a fascinating halacha. When the Bezdin is in session in the Lishkas Hagazis, then you're able to judge capital punishment. Every Bezdin gets their koyach from that Bezdin Hagadol. We said there was so much rampant murder that 40 years before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, that Bezdin, they left, and therefore they weren't judging capital punishment cases anymore. So when Bezdin is in session, not only was people in Eretz Yisrael had that Sanhedrin, but even in New York, in other places as well, you would be able to carry out the Arba Mises Bezdin. It's a fascinating halacha, right? But again, it's provided there's a Beis Hamikdash, and not only a Beis Hamikdash, but the Lishkas Bezdin in the chamber of the Lishkas Agazis. So Sanhedrin, okay. Now we learned Masechta Sanhedrin, we learned Arba Mises Bezdin, we spent a lot of time on it. How often did it happen? how often did Bezdin carry out a case of capital punishment? Sanhedrin ha'reges echad b'shvua, once in 7 years. Nikras chavlanis. It's considered a Bezdin of literally chavalim. They hit people. In other words, once in 7 years is plenty. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah echad l'shivim shana, once in 70 years. Once in 70 years. Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Kiva Oimim, Ilu Hayinu b'Sanhedrin. We were alive in time of Sanhedrin. They lived after this Churban Bayis. No one ever would ever be killed. We would be able to get anyone off the hook. So you have once in 7 years, once in 70 years, and Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Kiva saying no one would ever get killed. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, you think that's a big deal? You're doing a good thing that you wouldn't kill anybody. If you would use your intellectual power to go ahead and get every right seyach of the hook, all you would be doing is increasing shvichas dam and murdering Klal Yisrael. So it's not such a good thing. So it's fascinating that it was very, very rare to go ahead and have a case of capital punishment. Very, very rare. Says the Gemara. Now the diak of the Mishnah, it says, if you had a Gemar Din, and you return to that Bezdin, mashma, if there was a Gemar Din in Bezdin A and you return to Bezdin B, then they would reopen the case because they never passed him. Again, the diak is, because the Mishnah is very clear that this person who ran away with the fugitive was returned to the same Bezdin. In that case, when he's returned to the same Bezdin, then they don't reopen the case. Mashma, but another Bezdin, they would reopen the case. Lefnei oisei Bezdin, who they ain't soiser. Lefnei that Bezdin, they're not soiser. Holifnei Bezdin Acher, but in front of one another Bezdin, Seisrin, they would go ahead and they would be Seiser. In other words, they would open up the case. The Gemara, 1 second. You're telling me they'd open the case? Hatani Seifa. What did you say in the Seifa of the Mishnah? Kol mokum sheyamdu shnayim. Anytime two Adim get up, v'yomru, me'idim one of asish ploini, shed nigmar dinoi bebezdin ploini, uploni ploni edov, harizeh nerhag. In other words, you're not reopening the case. You're testifying what happened in the Bezdin. And that seems to be enough to kill him. So, it's a different Bezdin. Fellas, these Eidim are testifying what occurred they're testifying in Bezdin B, what occurred in Bezdin A. But you told me in Bezdin B they would reopen the case. Yet the Sefer says you'd kill the guy. It's a stira. The stira is from the inference of the Reisha. Says the Reisha, you would reopen the case in the same Bezdin. Mashma another Bezdin, you would reopen the case. Says the Sefer, 1 second. If two Eidim testify in Bezdin B, what occurred in Bezdin A, you kill the guy. It's a stira. So I'm Rabbi Lekasha. Listen to this. Kan be'eretz Yisrael, kan b'chutz la'aretz. So, if you have, let's say it's chutz la'aretz to chutz la'aretz, or Eretz Yisrael to chutz la'aretz, in that case, what? You're not going to reopen the case. In Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael, you're not going to reopen the case. However, if the guy runs away, listen to this, from a Bezdin chutz, and he runs to Eretz Yisrael, then you will reopen the case. Says the Gemara, fascinating. The Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda ben Dustoyo, I remember Reb Shimon ben Shetach, Barach me Oretz to Chutz La'aretz. If he runs from Bezdin A in Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, ein sois from Dinoi. You're not sois to the din. Me Chutz La'aretz. However, if he runs from Bezdin A in Chutz La'aretz to Bezdin B in Eretz Yisrael, then sois from Dinoi. You'll go open the case again. Says Rashi, perhaps Eretz Yisrael, perhaps the schus of Eretz Yisrael, right? Well, go ahead. It's fascinating. Guys, in other words, there seems to be a siyata d'shmai in Eretz Yisrael that doesn't exist in Chutz La'aretz than in Psak. It's fascinating. Again, if you run away from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, or Chutz La'aretz to Chutz La'aretz, or Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael, you're not reopening the case. The only time you're opening the case is from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because maybe the schus of Eretz Yisrael, they'll find something different to save the guy. And again, it goes begedavit silu esa eda. You always want to go ahead and be matzal the guy. It's geschmack as anything. Sanhedrin, I guess we said not only is it noyig in Eretz Yisrael, but it's noyig in Chutz La'aretz. Minani Mili, how do you know it's noyig in Chutz La'aretz? The Tana Rabbanon, it says, "V'hoyu eila lochem lechukas mishpat l'doyrei seichem." And what we need is the next two words, B'chol moishvei seichem. Any place moishvei seichem where you reside. Any place where you reside, then what? Elu, these the best, then you'll have a best and set up there. Lamdu. The Sanhedrin shneges be'eretz, u'b'chol moishvei seichem, afilu chutz la'aretz if the Yidden are living there. And came out Talmud Loimar, why does it say, Shoiftim v'shoitim titin l'cha b'chol she'orecha? Right? Shorecha is mashma in Eretz Yisrael. It says, "B'sherecha atamoyshiv batei dinim b'chol plach u'plach b'chol ear v'ear." Well, b'chutz la'aretz atamoyshiv b'chol plach u'plach yatamoyshiv b'chol ear v'ear. Not sure plach. What plach is? What Rashi seems to say. It's. I'm supposed to understand from Rashi. I'm not exactly sure. Plach is a larger area, and the ear is a smaller area. So in Eretz Yisrael, you'd have more batei dinim. Shorecha. But in other words, Shorecha doesn't preclude Chutz La'aretz. Moishvei Seichem includes Chutz La'aretz. But Shorecha means that it's more nimtza batei dinim, not only in every plach and every guardianship, but even what in a smaller state, in a city. Mashen came Chutz La'aretz, you wouldn't be b'chol plach b'chach, but it would be less places, but you would have what? You would have in cities, but you would have it in areas, certain areas. We said Sanhedrin that kills once in 7 years is called Chavlanis. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said once in 70 years. Now the question is, what did he mean, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah? Iboilahu. When Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, was he coming to say, was he adding on to the words of the Tanakama? Right? That Achel the Shivim Shon Nikras Chavlanis? You say 7 years. No. I say 70 years. By Dilma, maybe he's telling Urcharahi. In other words, he's not telling. He's telling you about what happened. That it would happen once in 70 years. So is he arguing? He's adding or arguing? And the Gemara says, take him. They said if we were there, we'd be able to go ahead and save them. We would never kill anybody, right? What would they do? Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar, Dami Travayu, Reisim Treifa Hareg, Shalim Hareg. You see, you killed a person. Now we know from our sojourn through Shas, there's the concept of a treifa. Treifa is a person who has some type of internal wound that he won't be able to live more than a year. He's considered a gavra katila. If you go ahead and kill a person, and it's known that he's a treifa, then you would not get killed. Meaning, Bezdin Shel Mata wouldn't be able to kill you. Bezdin Shel Maila, you're going to get as we spoke out in Sanhedrin, you don't get off the hook for grama. You don't get off the grama. You don't get off the hook for killing a guy for katila. But said Rebbe Elazar, Rebbe Tarfon, Rebbe Akiva, how do you know this person was what? Was a shalem? Maybe he was a treifa. So Amar Ravashi, Im Tim Saloim is shalem who? And let's say you find out he is a shalem. Dilma b'makom sayif nekav who? You stuck a sword in the guy. Efsha, there was a hole there beforehand. Now, this is all these things that they could possibly go ahead to save somebody's skin. Maybe there was a hole there and he stuck it in the hole. Okay, that's by murder, capital punishment. By arroyus, what could they possibly say by arroyus to get him off the hook? So says the Gemara, Abayu v'rava damid shavayu reisem kim b'chol shvaferis. Did you see that Mamish having bia? You didn't see them having bia. Rabbanon hechi daine Rabbanon inachinami l'chayra. If you don't see a bia, how can you kill the person? So the Chum say, in other words, it's only Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva who say this. Not the Rabbanon who argue on them. They would say Kishmul Damishmul ben often Mishayor Kim and often. You see them acting a way of niyaf. You see them acting together in a way of snus. So that would kill them. You don't need mamish. You don't need mamish to go ahead and see mamish bia. Now the question is, we only dealt with two capes of capital punishment, fellas. We only dealt with murder and we only dealt with snus, immorality. Look at Tosos, the bottom Tosos. Kimachol v'shaferes tema. How would you get a person off the hook for being Mechal Shabbos? How would you get a person off the hook for what? For being Ovid Avodah Zarah. You explained how you get him off the hook for murder. You explained how you get him off the hook for what? For Gili Arroyos. But again, there's so many different types of murder. How would you get him off the hook for that? The Hasam loy mitzinu lemifterei v'hachi kamar lehoya adam nerag yishlaim adam mikomakam kamar shapel lehoya adam nerag yishan leshkichi kulihai kimberoid seich varoyes. It seems that Avodah Zarah and Chilul Shabbos was not rampant. It wasn't a problem, but murder and arroyos was. So therefore, when Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon made their comment, they made on the more common things that would go ahead and bring a person to have capital punishment, such as murder and snus. Void yishleim, this is more lomdish teretz. The ikal meimar reisem shemechalo ain't a treifa. Did you see the person that was mechal Shabbos? It was a treifa or not? In other words, just like the person you killed was a treifa, maybe the person what was mechal Shabbos was a treifa. Now, what's the problem with that? Dim hu treifa im kain im tizimum lechoye chayav misa. In other words, two people come along, guys, and they say the following. This person was Mechal Shabbos. Says Rabbi Akiva, maybe the person was what? Was a treifa. And then it can say, in Achanami, we don't want to kill the guy because he's dead already. Nimsa, this is Eidus that you won't be able to Mekayim Hasama with. If Bleib's Eidus Shetech Lazima. Male in the Londis of Chilul Shabbos, they wouldn't be able to get him off the hook. Right? Fellas, listen, Tosis is not nice lumdis. Frek Tosis Akasha. You're only dealing with murder and you're only dealing with snus. What about that? I guess Avodah Zarah, they got rid of that taiva? Not yeah. Actually, maybe Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon, there was no more taiva for Avodah Zarah, guys. The Anshe Knesset Gedolah had gotten rid of it, right? They were previously. Those are the list of the Nevi'im. So therefore, all he has to answer Tosis is Shabbos. Shmak? He only has to deal with Shabbos. Okay. Two Eidim come along and say that Harry is Mechal Shabbos. Says Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon, I'm going to get him off the hook. How am I going to get him off the hook? Harry, how do you know Harry wasn't a treifa? And they could say, 1 second, guess what? You know what? We knew Harry was a treifa. Therefore, we went ahead and we testified against a person. We didn't want to kill him. We just want to tell you the Chal Shabbos because we wanted to kill a person that's dead. Memela, if that person is dead, you can't be Mekayim Kasha Zamam. What's a rule of thumb? If you can't be Mekayim Kasha Zamam, then the Adis is not an Adis. Memela said, Rabbi Akiva, I could go ahead by Chil Shabbos and get you off the hook as well. So either the first teretz is not common, it's not shaykh, and we only dealt with the two practical common ones such as murder and znus. Second teretz is, again, I'm adding the knech that there was no avodah zarah at the time of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon. And it's the only thing they have to deal with the Shabbos. It could be Eidah Shetiach Lazima. And on that note, Hajjan Lecha Ketz and Eidim, Hajjan Lecha Ketz Eidim, Hajjan Lecha Ketz Eidim. Okay, we're all familiar with Galus. We know that a person who kills B'shogeg goes to Galus. It seems to be, okay, there's two options. You kill B'meisid, you get killed, right? We said, again, it's very, very important, I think, to remember, if you kill B'meisid without Hasra or without Eidim and Besdin sees you, remember the Rambam. That's the one instance where we're going to put the guy in the cell, feed him till his stomach breaks open. We're not going to allow a murderer to exist in Klal Yisrael. Like I told Lenny, there's no such thing as death row in Judaism in a long period of time. But this is a unique thing. We will put a guy in a place and we will kill him. That and Rambam says it's only by Reitzeach. In other words, we're not going to let a guy who does nus and whatever, it doesn't have hasra or edim, we'll let him live in society. Let Hashem kill him. But again, this person we won't allow to live in society. So now, it's so unposhit that you can't believe it. To go to Golis, guys, it has to be a unique way. And watch. If it's an outright oinus, the guy is he is an onus. He's an onus. He's mamish. There's nothing he could possibly have done about it. He's not going to Golis. If the guy is the opposite, he's not amazed, but he should have been more careful. He is Korev amazed. He ain't going to Golis. When's he going to Golis? In between. He's not an honest and he's not amazed. In addition, we're going to see it has to be derech yerida. Okay? It has to be derech yerida. A very nice nafkamina, fellas, between Korev lemezid and onus. Either way, he's not going to Golis, correct? The goyal adam is able to kill him if it's Korev lemezid. Listen, I'll repeat it again. If he's an onus, there is no goyal adam. If he's Korev lemezid, there's a goyal adam, and he won't have the protection of the Ari Miklat. He won't have the protection of the Ari Miklat. Korev lemezid, you were so close. You got to be very okay. That's the with that hakdama. Let's begin. Elohim Goylin. This is the one who goes to Galus. Now, why are we bringing this in? Because the first Mishnah in the first parak said the second case of the case where you don't get kasha zamam, right? You get malchus, hu yanus, hu v'leizayimim. So therefore, since that case was speaking about Galus, we're going to go ahead and discuss Galus. Elohim Goylin. These are the ones who go to Galus. A horig nefesh bishkaga. Someone kills a nefesh b'shogeg. He kills a nefesh b'shogeg. What's an example of that? Okay, guys, let's picture a roof. In those days, the roof was flat. They would pitch it with tar, and you would want to make it pitch so the water would run off. They would put the tar on the roof, and they had a roller, some type of trowel. I think that's the word, a trowel, right? And they would go ahead. So look at me. If I'm moving it away from me, it's derech yerida. If I'm moving toward me, it's called mashach. The only way he's going to Golis is if he goes ahead this way and it falls and kills. If I go like this towards me and it falls and kills, I'm not going to go Golis. He's going ahead, he's rolling this trowel. V'nafla alav. The trowel falls on an individual, v'harakta, and it kills him. He's lowering a barrel. V'nafla alav falls on a person, v'harakta, and kills him. He's going down a ladder, v'nafla alav, and he falls on him, and he goes ahead what? And he goes ahead and he kills him. Yeah, the Gersa, guys, if you look at Mesoras Hashas, Tzarech Loima v'Hargoi. Just not a big digder guy, but v'haraktoi means, and it kills him, meaning the object's killing him. So in the first two cases, one, it was the trowel, two, it was the chavias. Over here, he's going down the ladder, he's killing him. V'hargoi, it's not v'haraktoi, right? So therefore, that's why you have to change the gersa over here. It makes it beautiful, right? Because it's him killing him, not the object killing him. Harizeh Goyla, he goes to Golas in all these cases. Why? What's the commonality? It's all derech yerida. In the commonality, guys, it's all derech yerida. It's all coming down to what? To him coming down in downward motion. Aval. Imhoya moishich b'magila. That means what? He's pulling the trowel towards him. And now it falls, it slips away, v'naflo love, and it falls for haraktoi. Hoya doyle b'chavyas. He's going ahead and lifting up the chavias. He's raising the barrel. The nifsak hachevel and the rope breaks. V'naflo lov v'haraktoi, and kills him on the base. Hayoyla b'sulam. He's not going down the ladder. He's going up the ladder. V'naflo lov, and it falls, and he falls, and now you have the gersa, guys. Geshmak. V'hargoi. Right here, the gersa is v'hargoi, and he kills him. Harizeh ain't a goyla. In this case, he's not going to go to golas. Ze'aklal, kol shebederech yiridasai goyla. Anyone that's derech yiridasai goyla, ushloi bederech yiridasai ain't a goyla. And anyone who's not derech yiridasai ain't a goyla. So that's your rule. Derech yiridasai, you're going to golas. Not derech yiridasai, you're not going to golas. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to ask, how do you know that derech? You need derech that v'yipo. You have derech Yerida. So the pasuk says, "Oichol even asher yamus ba," any even that you kill with it, below ro'os without seeing, vayapel olav, and it falls on him v'yamos. So the pasuk says, "Menani milia derech Yerida, amashmul do amakra vayapel olav vayamos achipol derech nefila." So again, you see that what we would call a shoygeg is not, there are so many loopholes. It has to be derech yerida, and derech yerida because it says vayapel. Tanurabanan. Now here's another pasuk. The pasuk says, "This is in Bamid Balamed Hey." Pasuk at Aleph. V'grisem lachem arim, ari miklat tiyen lachem. You should set up these ari miklat, these cities of refuge. V'nas shamaroit seach makanefesh bishkaga. The word bishkaga is totally extraneous. It's totally extraneous bishkaga. You know it's a shogeg. So says the Gemara, Tanrabanan bishkaga prat lemezid. Who goes to the Ori Miklat? A shogeg, not a mezid. The Gemara is going to ask mezid is a bar katala. Of course, he has got a gullus. You kill him. That's the chiddush. Bibli das. The pasuk. This is the third pasuk. He kills his friend bibli das. And he never hated him. So the pasuk says, "Believe das." Prat miskavin. Prat who had kavana. The Gemara is going to ask l'chayr if he had kavana. Of course, he doesn't go to Ori Miklat, right? Of course, he doesn't go to the Ori Miklat. Says Gemara, Mezit Pshita, Bar Katalahu, Amarava, Ema Prat La'ima Mutta. A person who thinks that it's permitted to go ahead and kill somebody. So a person who thinks it's permitted to go ahead, so it's not, when it says Mezid, it's not Mamish. He thinks you can kill him. Simcha told me, he said he's speaking about, he brought in something about speaking Lashon Hara, that something, there's a chi of misa for a person who's telling a person Lashon Hara. So let's say a person draws a gun and he kills him, and because he thinks it's mutter to kill him because he's speaking Lashon Hara. In other words, when you learn the Gemara, you say, come on, everyone, how can you think it's mutter to kill somebody? There's a heicha timsa where you think it's mutter to kill somebody. But again, this guy thinks it's mutter to kill. So l'chayre, he doesn't go to Golas. Why? There's two reasons. You could say he's an onus, or you could say what? Look at that cute guy. You say he's an onus, or you could say he's karv lemezid. Either way, he's not going. But the nafkamina would be whether it'd be a goy ladam or not. So very geshmak. Amle abaya. And I don't need a pasuk to teach me that. If he thinks it's mutter to kill, why do I need the pasuk to teach me, right? Bishkaga prat lemezid. I know that he's an honest, and of course he doesn't go to Golas. So Amalei, So he told him, Rabbi told Abaya, Shani Oima, I say Oima what the Karv Lemezid who. So it's Karv Lemezid. So guys, either way, he's not going to go us. Correct? But again, nafkamina. What's nafkamina? Karv Lemezid, according to Rabbi, you can have a Goyal Adam. According to Abaya, that is not, you won't have a Goyal Adam. You won't have someone going ahead with the ability to kill this individual. Okay, the pasuk says, "Bibli das." V'im bepesai b'lei eva hadafai or hishtach alav kol kli b'li. Oh, that's pli tzedia. B'chayesha yakar says rei b'bli das. Again, there's a bunch of psukim in different places. So one's in Bamidbar Lamed Hey, and the other one's in Devarim Yates. So b'li das pratna miskavin. Fedim miskavin pshita. B'li das without knowledge. Pratna miskavin is pshita. Bar katala. Who is miskavin is the bar katala. Amarabba. Pratna miskavin laharagas abehemu baragas adam. Let's see. He goes ahead, guys. He takes a gun. He has he's had it. This animal's been coming into his field and stealing his livestock, and he decides to kill the animal. Lines the animal up in his sights, shoots, the animal moves, kills a person. So his kavanah was to kill an animal. So in that case, he's not going to go to, right? That he won't go to Gullus, because his kavanah was to kill. So therefore, I guess it's karev le. It's an honest. You could say he's an honest. You could say he's an honest, right? He thought he's right. He thought he's killing an animal. Lakuti, he wants to kill a guy. But I guess Yisrael, lenefel, a child that will live. Ben kayama. In all these cases, what he won't go to Gullus, and that's probably das. Rabbanon. Okay, here's the guys. The pasuk says in Bamidbar Lamed Hechav Beis. Then Pesach quickly. Immediately, Eva, right, a hatred, hadafai, he pushes a hishlach alav, kol kli bleit sidia. Okay, we dash in the pasuk. In Pesa, pratlik Karen obvious. Pesa's mashmi is right next to him, right? Rashi says it's samach. Let's say a guy's walking with a knife. Guys, look, this guy has a sword. He's over here, and they go like this, and they meet at the corner. So he never saw him, right? Or he should have been more careful. So in other words, this machlokes Rishonim had the darshan over here. Is it karv lemezid because why are you walking with a sword, or is it an honest because the other person who is turning the corner should have watched? Either way, he's not going to gullus. Nafkamina, we know the nafkamina already, as I've spoken out endless times. Hadafai, he would go to gullus. Shedachvai begufai, he falls with his body. He'd kill him. Therefore, what he would go to gullus. Ahishtachalav. So this is what Heshri brought up. When you're going ahead and you're doing something that you're a reader for tzarech aliyah, in other words, you want to go up, but you need to do an act of Yerida to do it, then you would go to Golas. I want to throw it over here, I throw it in another place. Now this is believe it or not, another pasuk. This is in Shmos, in Mishpatim. You didn't go ahead and trap. Hashem delivered him to his hand. So again, you have I think it's Rav Hirsch. Rav Hirsch says the first thing that Yeshua did when he came into Eretz Yisrael was to set up Deri Miklat. Moshe set up 3 in Ever Yarden, but the 3 in Ever Yarden didn't work until what? The 3 in Eretz Yisrael. Right? You see the importance of Jewish life. Of a person's life, how choshev it is to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the first thing that they did. Again, it's an amazing thing. We have appreciation for Jewish life. Says the Gemara, Vashal Leitzada is pratlim eskavim lizok shtayim, v'zarak arba. You wanted for 2, you flew 4. This might be Karl Amazing, right? Guys, I like to play one off the other. You should think it out. Is it Karv Lamezid or is it honest? Many cases, machlokes Rishonim, which between the two. But once you get the Yisai down, you know it's Kishmak, because you get that we only go to Gullus in the case of Mamish Mezid. Shoige, excuse me. And you come upon your friend in the forest. My Yar, Rishus, and Nisikal Mazik, both people have Rishus to be there. Likanish Lasham. I've called Rishus, Nisikal Mazik, Likanish Lasham. Mashain Kain, if guys, someone comes, you're pitching your roof, and it's in your rishus, and shaman would walk into your rishus, and you kill him derech yerida, you're not going to go this. Again, you did the mechanics to kill the first case in the Mishnah. If your roof is in a place that is what totally yours, and the area around it where a guy didn't have a right to be there. Okay, Masechta we had in Baba Kama. If a shor walks into the shor of the mazik, what can he say? Torcha b'shus my boy. What's your shor doing in my rishus? You're trespassing. So the same thing over here. Boy mine, this is Heshi's shaila. Boy mine Rabavo mi Rabbi Yochanan. Hayoyle b'sulam. He's going up a ladder. B'nishmat hashliva, and the rung falls down. Mitachtov v'nafla v'harga mahu. So the whole shaila, guys, is on the shlav. Look at Taisus quickly. Nishmat hashliva v'haraktai, and it kills him. Hashliva aval mharga adam pata the beinin derech yerida. So Heshi, if you were walking up a ladder, Hesh, and you're going up the ladder, and you fell off the ladder, you're potter. Because your kavana is to go up the ladder. You're dealing with the pressure, right? And therefore, if the shlav that you put the pressure on kills, that's a shaila. But if you go up, there's no shaila, Hesh. Says the Gemara, Amalei, so he said to him, Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Avohu, Ki agavna mai, Amalei k'vayagata, b'yerida shetzarech aliyah. We paskined that yerida shetzarech aliyah is you would go to Galus. So in this case, if you're going up the ladder and you're putting pressure and it's going to knock down the rung and the rung kills somebody, you would go to Galus. Only if the rung kills, not if you kill. Not if you kill. Okay? So if you look back at the Mishnah, fellas, the second line from the top. Zeh klal. Two rules. Kol shebederech yiridasai goyla. Ushaloi b'derech yiridasai ain't a goyla. Okay? Derech yirida you're going, not derech yirida you're not going. In other words, it speaks it out. You could have inferred it, right? You don't have to speak at the second side. You could have inferred it. So it says the Gemara Esrei. Zeh klal. This rule, kol shebederech yiridasai goyla. Shaloi b'derech yiridasai ain't a goyla. Now, the second rule, Shaloi b'derech yiridasai lasuye mai. Why does it come to include? Lav lasuye ki agavna, the case of what? Going up the ladder, and the rung falls and kills somebody. That what? That you should not go to Golas. Right? And we said you do. So he answers, well, Taimech, Kol shebederech yiridasai, the first part of the ruling, Kol shebederech yiridasai lasuye mai. Anything that's derech yiridasai, what does include that you go to Golas? Is lasuye katzav. It's include the case of butcher. Okay, we're going to see the case of Katsav in a second. So, guys, just outside, Fred Akasha, you're going up a ladder, you go ahead, you hit the rung falls down, you kill somebody, you're going to Golas. Fred Ravo to Rabbi Akiv, to Rabbi Yochanan, 1 second. We have a rule in the Mishnah. What does it say? The Mishnah seems to say that anything that is not derech yirida, you don't go to Golas. So the chayra over here must be that's the case. That's not derech yirida. I'm going up, and this comes down. You don't go to Golas. Says the Gemara. But what about the Reisha? Anything that's derech yirida, you do go to Golas. So that's the case of, we're going to see in the second case of a butcher, who I did in the latter case is the case of a butcher. But going up the ladder and the rung killing, you're going to Golas. You're going to Golas. That's done. Okay. There is a butcher. He does five separate actions of a butcher with a cleaver. He does five separate actions. Okay, so what does he do? The first thing he does is he goes like this. He lowers it like this. And he lowers it like this, and then he brings it up over here. Good. So the lowering over here is derech yirida. Let's call that A. The Oscar calls it A. He now goes like this, guys. Look, this is B. He's going up. Then he goes ahead and he puts it behind his head, which is already derech yirida. He brings up, he pauses, and then he comes down. So there's three possibilities of what? Of derech yirida. A, over here. Not B. B is going up. C, when he puts it behind his head. And finally, E, when he comes down. And the two places where it's derech aliyah, guys, is watch. Derech aliyah, when he goes like this, when he's bringing it up from down to here, and then right? When he was bringing it up from here, so over here and over here. Those are two derech aliyah. Okay, so now with that, the next piece of Gemara goes very easy. Okay, so there are different motions. Says the Gemara, so we have pshat that our Mishnah, the two klolim are to include katzav. In katzav, in the butcher, there's a motion that will send him to galus, and there's a motion that won't send him to galus. If in his action, when he's doing it, it's derech yerida, he's going to galus. Derech aliyah, guys, derech aliyah like this, then he's not going to go to galus. So look, this is the derech aliyah, derech yerida. Okay, says the Gemara. Titania, katzev, a butcher, shayim katzev. He was butchering. He was using a cleaver to as we say, to hack. Tana chada, the fun of chayiv, the achrav pata. The fun of, he's chayiv, the achrav pata. So guys, watch. This is going to be this. Guys, watch. The fun of is going to be chayiv, galus. La achrav, behind him, is going to be pata. B'tanya idach, a second brisa, the achrav chayiv, the fun of pata. Guys, that's going to be this. Look, I'm going down this way, and the fun of, look, the fun of is this. I'm going up this way. That'll be pata. B'tanya idach, a third brisa, bein lefun of bein la'achrav chayiv. Guys, watch. Look, the fun of, watch. Right? B'tanya idach, bein lefun of bein la'achrav pata. If I do this, I come up to here, or I come bring it over to here, you're going to be pata. But like kasha, it's not shver. Can be yerida shalafanav aliyah shalachro. The first case where what? Where you're going to be chayiv for lefanav is where yerida is lefanav and aliyah is achrav. The second case, kan be aliyah shalafanav, you'll be pata of yerida shalachrav. Can be yerida shalafanav shalachro, you'll be chayiv. Kan be aliyah shalafanav shalachrav, you'll be pata. Let me kitanay. Let's say it's machlekes tanayim. Okay, let's suggest perhaps that what it's this whole that this is machlekes tanayim. The Rabbi Vo's suffix of going up the ladder and putting pressure down and falling down and killing someone is a machlekes tanayim. Hayoyle besulam v'nishmata shliva mitachtav. It falls up from underneath him. Tani chada chayiv tani yidach pata. My laba kamefuli, right? You read, right, the Masavar, the one who says Yechayiv Golas is Yeridahi, or Masavar, the one who says Yepata from Golas is Aliyahi. Good, it's that. Says Merloi, the Kuliyalma Derech Aliyahi. Okay, so we have to answer up. So why, if it's Derech Aliyah, why do you go to Golas? V'loi Kasha, Kanlan Nezikin. When we say Yechayiv, it doesn't mean Golas. You know what it means? Adam Mud Lo'ilam. It means to be Chayiv if you damage somebody. The Kan Begolas. So really, fellas, if you're going up the ladder, and the wrong kills somebody, you're going to be chayif in the zikin. You're not going to go to Golas. Why? Because it was derech aliyah. It was derech aliyah. That would be one way to answer up the problem, right? That really not a problem, but you're not locked into saying it's a machloikas tanoim. It's not necessarily a machloikas tanoim. Everyone could possibly hold that it's derech aliyah, and chayif doesn't mean Golas, it means nezikin. But the Indian Golas, fellas, everyone would hold your pata. Lenyan Golas, everyone would hold your pata. Okay. Iba Yasema, Havaha, the Golas. The Golas. So l'chayr, then if it's Golas, it must be that what somebody. How can they possibly hold derech aliyah? Like Hasha, Hod Asliya. When you chayiv Golas, is the rung was wormy. So fellas, if the rung was wormy, when you stepped on it, you should have felt the pressure of going down. Chayiv Golas. If it wasn't wormy and you step on it and it falls down, you're an onus. Fellas geschmack, right? You have a brand new ladder. You went to you bought I think Werner is the ladder, but they're not wooden ladders. You have a wooden ladder that it's the termites got it. You step on it a little bit and your foot is going to fall. You push it down. You chayiv Golas. Masha Ein Kain, if it was totally healthy and that's an onus. So, but Einachinami, it's not a machloikas tanoim, right? And for so that's what so Ibayis Ema Havaha, another pshat, deloyasly, beloy kasha hadem hadik v'hadeloy mahadik. If it was in there tight, then you're an honest. You don't go to Golas. If it wasn't in there tight, You felt it on the way down, you go to what? You go to Golis. Okay, very good.